It's that time. We are looking at your Dynasty football trades and letting you know where we stand. Do us a favor. Go ahead and drop a like to show some love. Subscribe if you like Dynasty content. And hey, do you want feedback from the community on a trade that you've made? Put it in the comments below. They'll roast you or they'll say that you got the W in the trade. I mean, they're pretty relentless. But hey, do you want your trades on this weekly show? Do you want to show the trades that you've made to the community and have us grade them? It's really simple for you to get them on there. Go ahead and use our code LAND at flockfantasy.com/land. There's a pinned comment in the description. If you choose that Mother Flocker tier, you will unlock the ability to put your Dynasty trades in this weekly show. So why don't we go ahead and start off? And really funny comment last week was about seven goat rings had a lot of trades in last week's video. Seven goats, if you're watching, man, they're coming after you. They're coming after you. Do something about it. Yeah, put your boys on it. But he is the first trade of this week, but I promise there's not like 10 trades from him. But let's look at it. 12 team full PPR, 2 quarterback, full PPR start 11. Still have 3 24 firsts and now 5 24 seconds. The read I got for that Kamara trade, I flipped in this. That first is projected late. The other second is mid. Also owned Pitts and Christian Watson, so one in London and willing to move off Dotson and Reed. So he gets Drake London and 2 second-round picks, sends away Jahan Dotson, Jaden Reed, and a 2024 first. And to me, this all comes down to where that first-round pick ends up being.
Yeah.
Because if that first-round pick ends up being, let's say, top 3 or 4, there's a couple wide receivers in next year's class that I feel like will probably be just as valuable as Drake London by the time we get into the season.
Yeah.
And then you essentially sent Dotson away for a couple seconds with Jaden Reed, which I don't love. So everything is, for me, I don't think this is a bad trade either way. I think it's evenly valued, but I would say it all depends on where that first-round pick ends up being.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would also say, how Jalen Reed turns out. I know that might
Sure.
not be this year or next year, or if he's not the guy this year and then they just bring in somebody else next year. I think that plays a huge part. But if Jalen Reed can be hypothetically finished wide receiver, top 30 wide receiver, that could be exciting to see how he can progress year in and year out. But I agree. Wherever that 24 first is going to play a huge part in this trade.
And we could have some bias because we are very heavy Jahan Dotson people here.
Yeah.
We've been on the Jahan Dotson train, so maybe if that was like a player that we liked a little bit less long term, like a Godwin or a Kirk or a not that we don't like these players, or a Tony, it would have been easier to say yes to that side. The Mighty Booch, what's up?
Come on.
And by the way, just quickly on 7 goat rings, hey, this man is just getting the most value out of what he's doing. He supports us. He's getting the most value out of it. You can't hate him. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Sign up and get your trades on the show. The Mighty Booch. So it looks like we get Parker Washington and a first, or we send Parker Washington and a first, and then we get Devontae Adams. And there's another trade here where she gets Jonathan Taylor and George Pickens, sends away Cooper Kupp, Ken Walker, and a third. Okay, so both leagues are 12-team Superflex, start 10 PPR contending. Kupp was my wide receiver 3 in above league with JT Trade. Only 2 wide receivers, 3 flex. Also had Saquon and Ramondre. So I understand this trade for Adams if you're competing. Now, if you're competing, you desperately hope that 24 first is going to be late. Agreed. I will say, at the moment, as good as Devontae Adams is, it's a little bit risky investing in him. And it's not so much even just the age. I know he's 30. He'll be 31 in season. It's more losing Derek Carr. I'm concerned it might be a bigger hit to Adams than the average person. I know you're with me. But what do we always talk about with Jimmy G? It's that he doesn't throw the ball deep.
Yeah.
He just doesn't do it, and he doesn't do it successfully. So we're eliminating an important part of Devontae Adams' game here. He'll have plenty of targets, but I'm just not sure I would actually rather do this deal for like a Cooper Kupp, oddly enough, or like a Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, ever since the Jimmy G news came out, it is a bit shaky. I was really hesitant on Devontae Adams. I sold, I think, the 2 stocks that I had of him last year throughout the season. He's not someone I want to invest in. Now, one thing I would say, if this season is bad, Well, the thing is, you're hoping that 24 first is late. Devontae Adams, I
Yeah.
think, will play more years. I think he still has another 3 years in him, just depending on
Sure.
that team that he goes to. If he's done with the Raiders after this year,
Yeah.
I think that is going to be the big conversation after this year if Jimmy G doesn't play well.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, look, I'm not going to say it's like a bad trade for you. It's just that's not the player I would have sent the first for, if that makes sense. And then the second deal, I personally feel like if you're competing, you prefer the cup side of this deal.
Yeah, I'm wondering if she is competing. I think they
But
are
she
the same
said she
leagues.
was both leagues
In both
contending.
leagues contending. Okay, so I would want the Cooper Cup side of the deal. Overall, I think JT is a good piece, but I'm still okay with Kenneth Walker personally. So yeah, I would want the Cooper Cup side, and Kenneth Walker. Look, not saying that George Pickens and Jonathan Taylor aren't going to produce, because I do believe George Pickens is going to be a good breakout. I think this whole Pittsburgh's team, it's going to be a good breakout season for these guys, or have a good fantasy year. So I like George Pickens, but I'd rather leave Cooper Cup if I am contending.
Yeah, it just feels like more firepower in your offense. But yeah, I mean, to each their own.
Yeah.
Let us know if we missed anything in the hotline, Mighty Booch. But hand the man next trade here. 14-team Dynasty Start 10. Chigakonkwo for third. And
Yeah.
you and I, Badaki, have made multiple videos about buying Chigakonkwo. And it's been for a late second. So to get him for a third, it's a no-brainer in my mind.
It's been great. I mean, getting Chick for this price is phenomenal. That's exactly what you want to do. You got to hope that someone like DeAndre Hopkins doesn't come in now. But I think even then, if he does come in, he should be fine in the middle of the field. So I'm excited for Chick this year.
Yeah, and I feel like this is the type of deal that you could get done in leagues that aren't as like active consistently, you know, like home leagues with your friends, or, you know, guys who pick back up fantasy in like late July, early August. Whereas like in a very tuned in dynasty league, I think you'll have to send a second, but you've done very well. So to the people out there who are in their home leagues, go try and make a trade like this. I think it's really well done. Okay. Styles says, felt this was an upgrade at quarterback and wide receiver despite losing some depth. Attached my new starting lineup for reference. And the team that it's connected to, we've talked about in the past. But let's have a look at this trade. So Styles gets Deshaun Watson, Chris Godwin, sends away Cooks, Kirk, and Dak Prescott. And to me, the way I'm looking at this deal is the upgrade at quarterback is worth. Honestly, though, I feel like you're upgrading in both positions. You're just giving up a little bit of depth now that I think about it.
I completely agree. So I think by the time this video is out, I am going to have an article about Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin is this guy that I'm really excited for, not this year, but in the future. Only 27 years old. Next year is going to be 28.
Right.
I think he can either get Caleb Williams, or he's going to be walking to another team, and he's going to go to a contender. At least that's what the hope and belief is, right? You hope that he goes to contender, which is going to be exciting. And he's a guy that has always been a top 15, top 20 guy, even with bad quarterback play. So now we have Baker Mayfield. Kyle Trask is probably going to be bad. So if you're going to buy him now before the season starts, he's wide receiver 33 on the season right now.
Yeah.
And he's 27 years old, been a top 2 wide receiver, has had a top 2 wide receiver finish before. And that was with Jameis Winston, not even Tom Brady. So I'm excited for Chris Godwin, but I really like this trade personally.
Yeah, same. You know, I feel like you upgraded in both positions, and it really just required Brandon Cooks, which, you know, as much as I love him as a buy low for a win now team, he's disposable in that scenario. So
I love Christian Kirk, by the way. Like, just keep that in mind. I don't think Christian Kirk is a throwaway here. I think the throwaway, kind of what you alluded to, was Brandon Cooks trying to get this deal done. Here's Brandon Cooks. Because Brandon Cooks obviously is an older guy. He's just 28, 29 years old maybe. But Christian Kirk, only 26 years old, still with Trevor Lawrence on this 5-year deal contract. So I'm excited for Christian Kirk as well.
Yeah. All right. Win Murder says 12-team start 10 Superflex PPR with a 0.5 running back premium as well as tight end. Looking around at my league, I appeared to be in the bottom 5 rather than the top 5. So my thought is I'd rather have a better wide receiver room and potentially tank to get into the top 4 of picks in 2024. I also have the other two lowest projected teams first. So some real likelihood that I have 3 top 5 picks in 24. Okay, let's have a look at these trades then. So it looks like he gets Michael Pittman, sends away Sanders in a second.
Interesting.
I am just concerned because I've very clearly stated my concerns on Anthony Richardson, not as a fantasy asset, but his ability to support fantasy wide receivers. So I feel like you might have been able to get more for Miles Sanders in season. I think he'll get a ton of opportunity, and yeah, he definitely, helps you win, which you don't want to do if you're trying to get high picks in 2024. But I get the thought behind Pittman though, because if you are agreeing with me, he's probably not going to help you win very many games this year. But in the market value, his value is not going to rise either. Yeah. So I think with this one, I feel like we could have waited till end season and sold Sanders for maybe a little bit more, or not even had to have included the second.
I hear you. I think what I would have done is the opposite. I would have kept Miles Sanders and hope to get like one of the top wide receivers, and tank for the top wide receivers in the 24 class. Because that's a Marvin Harrison or Emeka Mbuka. That's really exciting over a Michael Pittman. And then you wish you had Miles Sanders, who's on a 4-year contract, right? Or a 3-year contract. I forgot what it was. So I get the thought process. I think I would have done the opposite. I would have just kept Miles and just say, I'm tanking without any wide receivers. And done that, because obviously the wide receivers are going to be more lengthy. But it also depends if Michael Pittman stays on the Colts as well. I think that's a big conversation. Do they pay him? Right now it feels like it'd be wild if they don't pay him, but I think there's a possibility where he's not on this team and he goes somewhere else. So it's going to be interesting.
He'll get big money if he enters free agency, especially with the state of the wide receiver market. So I don't think it's a uneven value whatsoever. If Michael Pittman does what he did last year, then you will have won this trade probably. Yeah. All right. In the second trade, you get Drake London. You send away Jamal Williams and Josh Jacobs, and I'm fine with this deal. Yeah. To me, the two pieces that really matter is Josh Jacobs and Drake London. That's no disrespect to Jamal Williams, but he was wildly inefficient last year. He was the benefit of a bunch of touches within the 5-yard line. Like, he's not going to be that same player in New Orleans, I don't think. So I would definitely, this is a very, very good deal in my mind.
Agreed.
Okay, next trade we have from MN28, 12-team Superflex full PPR start 11.
Start 11, okay.
Okay, so what do you think about this deal? We don't know who has which side.
Okay. I mean,
but
look.
One side, Amari Cooper, Tyquan, a first and 25, a third and 26. The other side, Diggs, Claypool, and a first and 26.
This is what I would say. On paper, if I'm looking at this right now off the bat, I would rather have Stephon Diggs long term.
Same.
Tyquan Thornton right now, to be completely honest, doesn't mean anything to me. And that third doesn't mean anything to me. So you get Amari Cooper. Basically, you get Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs. Amari Cooper, if you're on this side, Amari Cooper in the 24 first, and you trade away Stephon Diggs, and you just get a 2026 second, or first, excuse me. Because Claypool also doesn't mean anything to me. I think he's the same thing as Tyquan Thornton. I mean, if he does get value, that's exciting, but I don't see him raising his value at any point. But on paper right now, I'd rather have Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's more value with the Diggs side. The first should relatively even out. But I will say Tyquan to me is a player that should be on people's taxis. There's not much competition in New England, and maybe D-Hop changes that, but I think he could be a more valuable asset than he's currently being given credit for. But I do think that Diggs is the clear winning side on this trade. We got Wade Murder back. He says, so after having changed my team name to 0 trades remaining, someone sent me this deal and thought, maybe it's an improvement. It's a 12-team start 10. We got the half premium for running backs and tight ends. Makes my wide receiver room Lamb, Waddle, Ridley, Treylon, Hollywood. Running backs now aren't pretty, but with Aaron Jones, Gibson, and Pirine, perhaps I can limp by. Okay, so this is obviously a different team to the previous one. He gets Jamal Williams, Calvin Ridley, Jalen Waddle, sends away Michael Pittman, Drake London, a first. So Is this the same team or not?
This might be the same team. And if this is the same team, I don't like this trade.
Yeah, if this is the same team, I don't understand because we're kind of moving back in strategy here.
Exactly, because not only do you get an old, like, don't get me wrong, I love Calvin Ridley, but you're getting a 28-year-old Calvin Ridley where you could have had two, under 25-year-old wide receivers of Michael Pittman and Drake London.
And the first,
exactly. And you're getting back Jamal Williams, who is probably going to be irrelevant. I know he has a 3-year contract, but most likely going to be irrelevant within 2 years. And then Jalen Waddle, this trade doesn't make sense to me. Sorry, I would have kept Michael Pittman and Drake London.
If it is the same team, then yeah, it's definitely hard to get on board with it. Just because the whole point was to get young wide receivers, build around them, and build through the draft. Yeah. We send away a first-round pick, right? And honestly, I think it's a little bit of an overpay. Just myself, because Jamal Williams doesn't really move any needle for me in a dynasty trade. And I love Calvin Ridley. But if you look at this, Drake London a first for Waddle. Let's say you're going to tear down from Waddle, right? I mean, that seems relatively even. Then Pittman and Ridley. I mean, I don't really love this trade regardless. I think that there's more value on the Pittman London first side. But especially if we already built our team around that strategy and then we bailed, that's just going to hurt you in your dynasty leagues if you do that. And the second one, we got Aaron Jones for Jamal Williams in a second, which, a future second in 2026, it's not bad. But again, all comes down to what was the strategy for this team. If it's the same team as before, I feel like we're going in reverse here. Yeah, agreed. We can't go one strategy and then, our entire identity's there and everything makes sense. And then we flip it because a deal comes in. This is why rebuilding is so tough, because you have to be patient. You have to be consistent. So, I'm not sure. Let us know. We might be missing something, though. There might be context that we don't have. Ethan, thank you for the trade, man. It says 12-team Superflex, start 10, winner, take all league. Have Herbert, Dak, JT, Mixon, AJ Brown, Hill, Andrews, Quentin Johnson, Watson. Decided to add Eckler in to just go for it all. May have been an overpay, but winner take all. I'm only looking to win now. Thoughts? Okay, so he gets Austin Eckler, sends away Montgomery, Hodgins, a first and a third. And I will just say off the top, I understand you're wanting to win now, but I don't think I would be willing to pay this price for Austin Eckler in Dynasty. Let me know if I'm not seeing that right, though.
I agree. Monty in the first. The way I'm seeing is Monty in the first. That's a lot as is right now, right there. And I mean, Isaiah Hodgins doesn't seem sexy, but he can be a value. And a 24th third, it's just too much, right? And then Austin Eckler.
Yeah. It feels like the first alone probably would have been the move there, just the first round pick.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is he really gonna finish? Is he really gonna have the crazy opportunities he had in the air this past year, like he did this past year? I think it's hard to say now, with Quinton, Mike Williams now, and Keenan Allen all healthy. So very interesting.
Yeah, Eckler had a career year through the air last year, over 100 receptions, but you're right. If those wide receivers stay healthy, there is probably regression on the way.
Yeah.
Look, I definitely hear what he's saying, though. Like, hey, I'm all in. I don't care. I want to win. So in that sense, you got better. Like, your team did get better. You will be a heavier competing team. It's just you might have to pay the price next year. Okay, different league than the trade above. 12-team Superflex had decent depth at running back with no real big hitters, so decided to move a couple pieces, plus Quentin Johnson to upgrade at running back, and picked up an extra second. So he gets Jonathan Taylor and a second, sends away Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift, and Quentin Johnston. How many starters are there in this league? We don't know. We don't know the exact amount of starters, but overall, I would say if this is a league that's like start 8, start 9, I think I'm okay with this deal. But it is giving up a lot of upside.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference. Yeah, JT is a massive tier from Miles Sanders, but I don't think Quentin Johnston or DeAndre Swift is worth a second. I think Quentin Johnston is clearly worth more than a second. Maybe Swift is worth a second, but I think it's just too much for me. I wouldn't have done this trade.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, if JT returns to his form, then you don't bat an eye about this.
True.
But you're right. There is a lot of upside on that side of the Johnson, Sanders, Swift. I mean, there's a chance Johnson's a top 15 wide receiver in Dynasty this time next year. There's a unrealistic but potential that he's top 12. Sanders will retain value, and then Swift is really the wild card. So that's tough. I'd be curious to see the amount of starters. Last one, he says this one goes with the first trade. Winner take all league. I sacrificed depth and future for an absolute unbeatable starting lineup. Like I said, going for it all or dying trying. Please take it easy on me. I just won a championship. Okay, so he gets Jalen Hurts.
Burks,
Okay.
Cooks in the first. I mean,
So gets Jalen Hurts, sends Prescott, Burks, James Cook, and a 2025 first. What do you think?
it's just a lot, man. I wouldn't have done this trade. I mean, you love Treylon Burks. I mean, I'm not even high on him, but I would keep Burks. You're not even high on James Cook, but I know you would keep James Cook. A 25 first, Dak Prescott. I mean, he may be older, but still a Power 5 offense. And I think he is going to be great. I think he was going to be a top quarterback, if I'm not mistaken, if he didn't miss time, or at least a top 12 guy. So I would have kept all those guys.
Yeah, look.
But
It is tough
because
because
he's trying to win it
in
all.
a super flex league, to get Jalen Hurts, who's coming off an MVP type season, just signed that huge long-term deal, has all those young weapons to grow with. Not even 25 yet. Dak will be 30 soon. You paid a premium. That's what I'll say. You absolutely paid a premium. But I think there's a lot of people out there who would justify this deal. To me, I just think Burks is undervalued. So if that was a
Yeah.
Tony, if that was a Christian Kirk, and it's not that I don't like these players, right? If that was a Rashad Bateman, I would feel much better about this deal. Like I could justify it, but I just think specifically Burks the first and Prescott, those are players that I think are undervalued, specifically, the quarterback and wide receiver.
Yeah, I agree.
But hey, you definitely went all in. And again, if we knew, like, if it was a start 8, this would be easier to stomach, right? A
Yeah.
start 8 to get Hurts and Eckler on your team would be much easier to stomach. But it sounds like you've gotten rid of a bunch of depth and a bunch of future picks. So I wish the best for him, because if it doesn't work out, you will be very sad at the end of the year.
Which makes me believe that this is a big starting lineup. I mean, you're not going to give up Burks, Cook. Well, I guess you can. I mean, looking at it, but like if you think about it, he gave up Dak Prescott, Burks, James Cook, and if you go back to his first trade, he gave up Monty and Isaiah Hodgins. That is 5 people he just traded away for 2. Not even, obviously not including the picks. So I feel like this might be a deep league, like a big bench here.
Maybe, or he's taking advantage of a small league.
Maybe.
And people who don't think that way.
Yeah.
Let us know, Ethan, in the comments or DM us on the fantasy hotline. Okay. And everyone's favorite, we got 7 GOAT rings to end the video today.
Come on, baby.
10-team full PPR, start 11, 4 IDP, half tight and premium. Fell. The only real value I gave up is Brown, and the second, which is projected late. I like buying up Cooper, and with y'all talking about how him and Watson for a full season could be special. What's y'all's thoughts? My tight ends are now likely McBride, Mayer, and Ertz. I also own JT. I'm higher on Gibson, bounce back. Okay, so he gets Amari Cooper, Juju, Evan Holt, Michael Mayer. He sends away Chris Rodriguez, Gesicki, A.J. Brown in a second. A.J. Brown, though, that's
A.J.
what's
Brown.
tough.
I don't
care
somebody
about
else.
Rodriguez and Gesicki, but man, A.J. Brown, that's tough to move off of A.J. in Dynasty.
It is tough. I mean, longevity,
I'll just quickly say, sorry, I'll let you go, but what you have to have happen for you to win this trade is Michael Mayer ends up being a top 10 tight end in fantasy this year.
I agree.
That is the only way you win this trade.
Look, I think there's sneaky value for Juju as well. I mean, he's going into, all of Jacoby Myers' targets, which is over 100 targets this year. Now, does he stay healthy? That's the biggest question. Does DeAndre Hopkins come in? That's another big question. long term, though, I would rather have AJ Brown with Jalen Hurts than Amari Cooper, who is 27 years old.
He is 29.
29, and AJ Brown is what, 20? I think 26. 25. Okay,
26. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
26.
so I would rather get the younger guy with the better quarterback long term. I mean, they both have good quarterbacks, but still, you know, like I would rather have AJ Brown. It's going to be interesting. I agree. It's going to be what happened with Michael Mayer there.
And I think the reason that we love Amari Cooper is because he's been really affordable in trades, but we wouldn't love, you know, the kind of tearing down to an Amari Cooper. Yeah. Really, you're tearing down to Amari Cooper for Michael Mayer, right? And that's tough. I feel like even if it was just AJ Brown in the second, I would take that side of the deal, just personally. But hey, let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Everyone who wants their trades on the show, again, it's super simple. Sign up with our code LAND at flockfantasy.com/land. Choose the Mother Flocker tier, and then you're going to unlock this Dynasty Trades text channel. So we'll be looking at your trades this time next week. Pin comment in the link below. Drop a like as we end the video. Subscribe if you like Dynasty content, and we'll see you in the next one. All up. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy. Even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.